All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Michelangelo Mortellaro with Mortellaro Law and Fortress Asset Protection. And today's topic is going to be business strategies for post-pandemic success. And it's kind of a mixed bag today. We're very fortunate to have some referral partners here with us. We have Chris and Tony. They were co-founders of Wealth Advisors Who Care. We have Jason Sampson, who's my partner in Fortress Asset Protection, as well as founder of Venerable Law, business law attorney. And we have Gary Giamartino, good Irish name, Gary. And he is a business coach with a expertise in exit planning for small to medium-sized businesses. So we're kind of giving you a little bit of several professions and expertise seeing the same issue from different angles on how we can help business owners protect themselves, whether it be through exit and transition planning, through lawsuit deterrence and avoidance, and through proper setup of the entities. And then on the financial side, things that can be used in your business to help financially, whether it's business financial planning or financial planning on the personal side of business owners and things that they should be thinking about, from tax perspectives to just good general financial advisory advice. So we're going to start off with Tony and Chris. If you guys want to introduce yourself, and I know you have a few topics to cover for the group today.
Great. Thanks, Michelangelo. Thanks everybody else for being here as well. My name is Tony Adamo. I'm co-founder of Wealth Advisors Who Care. We are a registered investment advisory firm here in the Tampa Bay area. And our expertise is in not only asset management, but financial planning as well. And I'll introduce my co-founder here, Chris Rataka.
Chris Rataka, co-founder of Wealth Advisors Who Care. And as Tony had mentioned, not only focused on the asset allocation of our clients' portfolios, but also the ancillary items, strategic income planning, legacy planning, everything that goes along with complete financial planning. So, happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, we're here to talk about the impact that COVID's had on businesses and business owners in particular. And one of the things in our industry that we talk about and planning for is what we call black swan events. If you're not familiar with that term, basically what that means is it's an event that happens. It could be economically, it could be in other ways that is unexpected. It comes out of left field. And so the COVID-19 pandemic is considered a black swan event. No one really saw that coming beforehand. And what's different about this black swan event is we call it the trifecta. It basically has affected people's physical health, their mental health, as well as their financial health. And so we wanted to talk about that specifically on the financial end, because the financial end also impacts the mental and the physical as well. And so I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk about the importance of why we focus on financial planning and helping business owners deal with something like a black swan event like the pandemic.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. And the way that I like to explain financial planning to my clients is that if anyone who's ever flown an airplane understands the importance of having a flight plan and a checklist, right? So any pilot who's worth his salt would never just hop in a cockpit and fire up the engines and take off, right? So you talk to the tower, you know where you're flying, you check the weather, you've done a walk around the plane, and that's a really good analogy to use when you think about financial planning, because even in the context of a black swan event like COVID, like the real estate bubble back in 2008, having a plan in place was really key to navigating that successfully. And I can think of a real life example. We had a client who came to us after the crash in March, and they had made a knee-jerk reaction to their portfolio. So, they weren't following any type of discipline in terms of asset management. And unfortunately, if you paid attention to what the markets have done since then, he unfortunately missed out on complete recovery. So having a plan is really key, not only from the standpoint of making sure that you don't make a knee-jerk reaction, but also when it comes to business planning, making sure that you have your qualified plan in place for your employees so they feel valued. There's numerous studies that have come out that show that employees who feel valued in the workplace tend to do a better job, less sick days. There's lots of different metrics that speak to that. And giving our clients peace of mind, whether it's on an individual basis or our corporate small business clients. So making sure that they have answers to the what ifs in life. So you want to speak to that?
Sure. The importance of having a financial plan as well is it doesn't eliminate a black swan event happening. That's not the purpose. The purpose of a financial plan is to mitigate those risks that we just talked about. So it enables you, if it does happen, and this is not going to be the last black swan event we're going to have in our lifetime. There will be others. We just don't know exactly when that's going to occur. But what we do with financial planning is we actually stress test clients' portfolios, take into consideration something like a black swan event. So they know with confidence that if that should occur, they'll be able to weather the storm. And that's the key. That's the key. Because a lot of things that happened during the COVID, I think it really shook people to their core. They started thinking about, one of the things that we planned for, besides the investments, is what we call having a plan for the what ifs of life. And Michelangelo, as well as Jason, as well as Gary, know exactly what I'm getting ready to talk about. It's talking about what if I became disabled because of COVID, okay? Did I have a plan in place to make sure that my family was taken care of in case I became incapacitated? The other thing is, what if, hopefully that wouldn't happen, that not only I passed away because of COVID, or maybe a breadwinner in the family passed away. What impact will that have on my family's life? Did I have life insurance in place? Do I have other protections in place as well? And the other thing, especially from a small business owner standpoint, a lot of small businesses were shut down, whether by the government or the fact that they didn't have any revenue coming in, and they actually had to close the doors. Did they have an emergency reserve put away? Did they have 6 months worth of living expenses, not only for the business, but themselves personally, to help them get through this pandemic? So these are the type of things that we provide for our clients, besides just asset management. I mean, it's an important piece, but we also work with our business partners that are on this call right now. So make sure that if they don't have a plan in place, that they put one in place. And not only that, but the importance of having a plan in place.
And I would just echo that, and certainly turn it over to my business partners. But when we talk about what ifs, certainly litigation is your expertise, Michelangelo and Jason, and the what ifs that come along with that. I'm sure many small business owners don't conceptualize some of the real life scenarios that you've experienced, and I'm excited to hear Gary's opinion and outlook on how to plan for exit strategies, right? So many small business owners don't necessarily think about the lifespan of their business and what that looks like. So all of these things together are really what today's webinar is about, right? So to give everyone some food for thought and how to better be prepared for the next black swan.
That's right. That's right. And the other thing that I want to get across as well is because we are all not necessarily business partners, but we refer clients to one another. There's open dialogue between all of us. So if we refer a client to say Michelangelo, that we're involved with that conversation as well. And so this is an integrated team between a lot of disciplines that support small businesses. And I think it's important that small business owners or even medium-sized business owners have a team behind them to provide them good, credible, honest advice.
Tony, I think you nailed a couple things that I want to reiterate, and then I think will be a theme moving through the rest of the presentation. The first is the team approach. We talk about building a team, whether it's in the elder law world that I work in my law firm, or whether it's in the business consulting firm for Fortress, is that there's no one professional that does it all. There's no one company or one person you can go to that has your business law needs met, your entity creation, your anonymity planning, your financial advising, your insurance products, your exit, transition, succession planning. That I know of, there's no one smart enough to be on top of all of those fields at the same time, day in and day out, and be able to be a one-stop shop. So that being said, business owners are typically, they're running knee deep in the swamp with their tail on fire, just keeping their business running in a non-pandemic situation before you throw that curveball. And they're spending all of their time and effort building their baby and making it successful and more profitable and more efficient. And quite often they don't see the forest for the trees and realize that there are strategies that they can use for setting up qualified plans for retirement for their employees that may actually help them as a business owner save on taxes. And they didn't even know that was an option. Right. They didn't think about disability insurance. What if they become disabled? They didn't think about, what if I become disabled or die? How do I extract the value of my business or my percentage of ownership of my business for my family and not have it all go into probate? 82% of business owners don't have an estate plan because they're too busy running their business. Right. So the reality is business owners need a team. There's typically not a one-stop shop available. And so you have two choices as a business owner. You can try to kind of play fantasy football and field your own team, and you try to pick the best business law attorney, the best estate planning attorney, the best financial firm, the best business coach. And then even if you find top people in their own industries, you put them all in a pot and you mix it up and you expect them to play well together in the sandbox. And quite often, whether it's personalities or egos or just not being team players in their own right, you don't get as good of a result as you could get if you come to a team that already has continuity, has mutual respect for each other, understands where each person's lane begins and ends. And also all of us understand that we're not the quarterback. We're just a cog in the bigger picture. And that we know that whether it's on the financial side or on the tax side or on the business coaching side, that we know what we know and we know what we don't know. And we are able to rely on our partners to pick up and give valuable advice as a team member that we honestly don't have the skill set for. And I'm not ashamed to say, like, I'm not qualified to give financial advice. I'm not licensed, insured. It's not my thing. So we rely on these other professionals to be part of the team. So I want to turn it over to my business partner, Jason, now to talk about a couple of concepts. These aren't necessarily pandemic related, but they are asset protection strategies and some business law strategies that we think are important for business owners to take away from today's discussion.
So thank you, Michelangelo. So to tailor in to what Chris and Tony were talking about, I like Black Swan. It sounds very interesting. I don't necessarily typically use that term, but I mean, what the pandemic gave us was insight into, this might all change in a heartbeat. It's not all going to go on the same way forever. And we might actually have to plan for something that happens in a bad way unexpectedly. We all know life is not infinite. We all know that we're going to pass away someday, but we all also think we're going to live forever. And the pandemic has allowed us to have some very serious conversations with folks about what are we doing to really plan for the bad times? What is, my law firm is, focused purely on business owners. Fortress is focused on the consulting side and creating asset protection structures and things like that. That allows us to have these very serious conversations with folks. But I went to law school for a reason, right? I'm very limited in what I can do logistically. That's where Gary comes in. And I'm certainly very limited, even more so on the financial side. And that's why we partner with folks like Chris and Tony. And at the end of the day, each one of these plans happening, inconsistently or on its own out there in a vacuum does the clients no good. So until you can bring a team together, bring some cohesive nature to it all, actually make a plan that's working for the client, you really don't have even close to your full potential. So when we look at Fortress, it was created natural beginnings from Michelangelo and I working together, taking care of our business clients on the estate planning and business structuring side. So we create the structures, right? What are we looking at from day one? What are the touch points for the partners? we're having that very serious consultation right at the outset. What are you trying to gain from this? Is it just purely, throwing a corporate shield protection up there? Are there other things that we need to deal with? Because often what we find, and especially I've been doing this more than 20 years, I would find that someone created something on, a website somewhere, someone gave them some piece of advice, do this, do that, and they have pretty much next to nothing done from a legal perspective. The easiest thing for me to do when I'm in litigation is pierce a corporate veil for a mom and pop operation because the entity creation wasn't done correctly and they've been running it like their personal piggy bank from day one and have never once looked at a corporate formality or anything like keeping up with that structure the way it's supposed to be maintained. The next thing we evaluate with folks past that is, lawsuit deterrence and anonymity planning. Is your name, everywhere you can find it in public records tied to 15 different LLCs, whether you're making, $5 from one or 5 million from one, we don't really know. But the best thing we can do in that scenario is make you a ghost in public records. Nothing wrong with it. Everybody understands, legally what that means. The IRS still has full disclosure. We're not hiding anything from those folks. And if we're doing any sort of lending, your bank is always going to know as well. So, we say a ghost, legally, we, answer up to the folks that need to know, but otherwise we wipe you off of public records. Why does someone need to know that you're involved in 15 different LLCs and make you a target when you don't need to be? And when we say lawsuit deterrence, that's really right there at the gates. If you're driving down the street, God forbid, you take out a pedestrian or something like that, an attorney goes and does a $25 background search and looks up your name. We're going to make sure that your name doesn't come up with 15 different LLCs and you're sitting behind some nice protections. That's the first level before you even get into the moving mechanisms behind that with an operating LLC, an anonymous LLC, registered out of state, trust behind that, all those lovely structures that we can put into place. And you're talking at a minimum 2, 3, 4 levels or barriers of protection or peeling back the layers of the onion, as we like to say it. The next step past that, we're always looking at the operating agreement structures. If, and I say if, and those folks out there that are running businesses and understand what an operating agreement is, this is going to sound, almost like it should fall on deaf ears, but if they actually have an operating agreement in place, more often than not, it's, a good 5-pager that they found somewhere in an internet form and they said, hey, let's just doctor this form and throw it in a file somewhere and never look at it again. Typically, our operating agreements are, ranging from 30 to 40 pages. And it's not just a volume thing. It is, what are the provisions that actually need to be there for this business and the partners and the succession planning and the continuity planning if something bad happens, or God forbid, a creditor is coming in and trying to take your interest in the company. You can't deal with those after the fact and then try to doctor some sort of form after the fact. That's all very bad stuff. Now, from day one, you for sure can set the regs exactly the way you want them. And I say that because you're either dealing with state regs or your own regs, meaning regulations, right? And that's in the form of an operating agreement. You say, this is the way all of these things are going to be treated. If not, you're reverting back to state law, not necessarily where you want to be. The next part of that planning and consultative process with our clients is exit planning, succession planning, and continuity planning, however you want to refer to that. That's where folks like Chris and Tony certainly come in. And then the logistics with Gary is, probably tantamount to anything else. It's very important to have someone that fully understands the finances of it and also understands the logistics of what we're talking about. Because again, we can do things legally. We can create the structures. We can create the format. We can, tell them to do this, tell them to do that. But without someone to actually implement it on the working side, you're not getting the full value of that service. So when we talk about exit planning, succession planning, we want to make sure that we have buy-sell agreements in place. Well, what does that mean? It means essentially, if it's done at the outset, it's almost like a prenup in the divorce world. Everyone, we're not saying this is going to go bad. We're not saying someone's going to pass away 6 months into it. We're not saying someone's going to want to get out in 6 months. But if it does, this is how you treat it. And then we talk to folks like, Chris and Tony. How do we fund that? Are we looking at a life insurance product? Are we doing something like that? And then we've got the buy sells after the point. And that's where we really came in to see some serious traction during COVID time. So like, okay, well, I'm not going to live forever. I could catch a COVID. I could, pass away. What happens with my business? I don't have an operating agreement. I don't have a buy sell. What happens if my partner passes away? That's when we start to really get into the, the post-nup world and the family law world, making sure before things go bad. And I say go bad, someone passes away, someone gets deathly ill, someone decides they don't want to, be involved with you anymore on the business side, or God forbid, you're really dealing with, partnership disputes. When everybody's getting along and doing well and healthy, this is the time to sit down and have these conversations. Sit down, go through these things, plan ahead of time. Because I'm here to tell you, for probably 1% to 5% cost, you can get it taken care of on the front end. And it's probably closer to 1% on most of the times. So by the time you are in a dispute without records, without documents, without an operating agreement, without a buy sell, it's exponentially more expensive, time consuming, and of course, takes a tax upon you and your business, because now you're bogged down in that dispute. And for sure, you don't have the mechanisms in place, like, God forbid someone passes away and you have a life insurance policy to insure their interest and buy them out and things like that. But without partners to help implement that and have this team approach, we really can't offer the full realm of service to folks. That, COVID has been tough on everyone, but it has certainly taught us some very great lessons of, who we can really rely upon, the value add that we can really put to our business owner clients, and really take those businesses and not just look at services as a cost or expense back to the business, but be a value add so we can help you be more successful. And that is a huge message for everybody on this team that's on this webinar here today. That's what we want to do for folks. Too many times people look at legal expense, financial plans. Well, what percentage are they getting? And what does this cost in the very short term? What am I going to have to pay Gary to come in? And what is his hourly and all the rest of it? At the end of the day, our sole goal is to make you more successful as a business owner, entrepreneur, investor, and to take that business to the next level, because the more secure you are in that hub of a system, you get that nice little core wrapped up and nice and tidy, it gives you endless amounts of opportunities to do other things, whether you want to acquire another business, sell it, retire, whatever you're going to do. All of these things work in conjunction to make your business more successful. And I'm happy to be a part of the team, and I'll pass it back off to Michelangelo.
Sure. So I had mentioned earlier, there was two things I wanted to run the theme. The first was the team approach. The second is it's all about risk mitigation, because you can build the best business in the world. And you go back not too long, somebody was talking about America Online the other day, like, they had the internet, in their hand. And now it's just kind of a nostalgic thing that people remember them. Things are going to change. The market's going to change. The economy is going to change. The financial outlay of the land, the business side, your legal effects of it's most likely for most business owners, it's not when, if you're going to get sued, it's when. And when that happens, how prepared are you to mitigate that risk? And at Fortress, what we do is we try to isolate the areas of risk in your business and personal life. And if something catches fire, we want to make sure that that fire doesn't spread to other assets, and that it's contained. So if you have 10 rental properties and you have a problem on one, your tenant's cooking meth and it blow up the place and hurt somebody. We've had that happen. The owner of the property is going to get sued. Well, do you want all 10 of your properties to go up in flames with the one that's had the problem? Or do you want to lose 1/10 of your assets versus all of them? And so risk mitigation becomes big. The other piece of what I consider risk mitigation is ultimately your estate plan. If anybody has figured out how to live forever, please let us know. We can make some money on that. But other than that, similar to being sued as a business owner, it's even more of a when it's going to happen, not if. And as I mentioned earlier, 82% of business owners have no estate plan. They have no plan to get the value of their business, which for a lot of folks is their most valuable asset at the time of their death, is their going concern business. And they have nothing in place for disability, for incapacity, whether that's for income replacement and things like disability insurance, whether it's life insurance, whether it's how to extract the value for your family out of a partnership or a multi-member business owner structure. And the last thing we want is to have you pass away, your other owners of the business not want to play nice with your family and give them what they're owed, and basically just freeze out the family, continue running the business, keeping all the profits, and putting the family now in a position of having to go out, hire an attorney, sue the business. And with nothing in place, like the operating agreement, like Jason was saying, it really puts that plaintiff at a disadvantage of, what are my rights? Well, they were never defined. Oh, well, that's not a great place to be. And the final piece is that, especially for small business owners, family-owned businesses, certainly sole owner entities, is that if you pass away and you're the only one with access to the checkbook, who's writing payroll? Who's paying the rent? Who's keeping the lights on? Think about what your business is worth right now, whatever number that is. Now think about what it's going to be worth if you pass away and that business goes dormant for 6 to 12 months minimum while it's going through probate. No one's answering the phone. No one's collecting rents. No one's billing clients. Employees have all gone to work somewhere else. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but your business is worth used furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which is a fraction of what your business would be worth if it's bringing in $1 million a year and running strong. So the estate plan becomes essential. And we meet so many business owners that have done a really good job. They have great financial support. They have great business coaching. They have great tax support. And we ask the question, well, what happens if you get hit by the beer truck tomorrow? And they go, oh, well, my family will get everything. Well, yes. When and how? Then the light bulb goes off. So what we really do a good job at Fortress and in the team in general is taking high net worth individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, real property investors, and making sure that everything that we're working to build and to grow and to financially nurture has a safety valve, which is when you pass away, extracting the most amount of value and getting it to those people that you care about the most. And that is where I think 99% of business owners falter, even if they have everything else in place, is that last piece of extracting every penny out of it and getting it to where you want it to be, because that's what you've worked for your whole life, is to make a better life for your children, your spouse, your charities, whatever it is. So business owners, take a look at your estate plan. If you don't have one, contact us, contact someone. It doesn't really matter, but put that on your radar of getting that nailed down. Make sure that your estate planning attorney understands the business entity and the structure and works with your other professionals in a team environment to avoid probate, to avoid having your business locked down for 6 to 12 months during that process and have you lose the vast majority of the value of your going concern. So that's pretty much on the Fortress side what we do. And then I'll turn it over to Gary, who has a lot of experience with business owners in a consulting and coaching, and how he can help small to medium-sized businesses extract that value and make sure that they don't kind of lose it in the process.
Thanks, Michelangelo. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. A pleasure to be with my colleagues and friends today. We're doing something very unique. When we talk about, when we've all talked about preparing your business for a transition, whether that transition is the result of a change in health, whether that transition is a result of change of family dynamics, perhaps a divorce or a child taking a direction that wasn't anticipated. We all know that those things are going to happen. Those are the black swan events that Tony and Chris referred to. We can't make them not happen. What we can do is prepare for those events that will occur. The black swan events will occur, and the predictable events will occur. We will all age. Our businesses will all go through changes. Whether the changes are the result of a change in technology that we weren't prepared to invest in, and thus our competitors overtook us. Whether that change is a result of the obsolescence of a product or a service that we're offering. Whether there's a game changer in strategy that comes in and affects the whole industry, takes the industry in an entirely different direction. What we know is that change will happen. question is, are you prepared for it as a business owner? Business owners are really good at running their businesses. I know, I grew up around family businesses. I can't tell you how many conversations around the extended family dinner table were around business issues, and they were thorny issues. There were issues about not being able to find the right employees. There were issues about what to do as the owner or founder gets older. It's the consternation that a family may feel when they realize that a son or daughter who they hoped would be an inheritor and a successor to the business is going in a different direction, or perhaps for some reason is unable to take on the business, so the family has to make a different plan. Those are all events that do happen. They happen to everyone. So, for those business owners who are watching, I'm guessing that as you're watching this, you're nodding your head, right? How many times have you nodded your head as you've heard the anecdotes that Michelangelo or Jason or Tony or Chris have been talking about? And if you're not nodding your head because they have happened to you, you're nodding your head because they've happened to a family member or they've happened to another business owner that you're familiar with. One of the biggest concerns that I've heard is from business owners as a result of the pandemic is, should the pandemic make me sell, or should I take advantage of the pandemic to sell my business? Should I hold off and not sell my business because of the pandemic? Or how has the pandemic changed those dynamics about how I think of my business ownership and my eventual exit from my business ownership? And this is true regardless of what age someone is, right? This is true for a 40-year-old business owner who may own a restaurant and find themselves in a terribly awkward situation because their assets, their energy, their family, perhaps their family assets, extended family assets, are tied up in the business. That 40-year-old isn't quite prepared for what to do, nor is a 65-year-old prepared for what to do. So it happens to all business owners regardless of their age. How do you prepare for those events? You prepare for them by doing what Tony and Chris referred to, what Jason and Michelangelo referred to, and what I'm going to suggest as well is that you start thinking about it ahead of time. You don't wait until the bad thing happens. You don't wait for the hurricane to be announced on the Weather Channel before you start buying your batteries and fresh water and so forth. You don't wait until someone is physically incapacitated completely to look for a facility that would provide them the care that they need. So we're advocating thinking ahead of time, and that's where the experience that I've had in family business, the experience that I've had with transitioning in businesses, can really come to bear. We've all talked about this notion of working as a team, bringing a group of experts together to make a team work for the benefit of a client. There are two good analogies that I'll bring up for business owners. Number one is a sports analogy. We've all seen sports teams that are full of individual stars, right? And those individual stars will play well under different, under almost all conditions. We know that that as individuals, if they're baseball players, they can hit, they can field, they can throw the ball. Carry on the analogy for football or basketball players or tennis players. Well, what happens when you bring a group of individuals together as a team? My guess is that even if you're a casual fan, you can understand the notion that once you bring a group of people together to play as a team, that unless there's a good coach who can facilitate the performance of all the members of the team. In the interest of winning, that team of individuals doesn't always play very well and doesn't always win. Another analogy is in the healthcare field. And I'm guessing that many of you watching this have experienced or had the experience of various medical specialists, bringing information together, bringing prescriptions together, bringing advice together on how a patient should deal with a health condition. And unfortunately, we see this happening all the time. In fact, it even comes up in advertisements for various types of medication, where pharmaceutical manufacturers will recommend that people talk to their physician and to their pharmacist. If you're experiencing a health condition that requires the treatment or the consultation of various specialties, who brings those people together? Who helps them talk to each other? Who makes sure that the prescriptions that one is offering or is advising don't come into conflict or don't make it difficult for a different prescription to be working? We offer not only the advice and consultation, expertise of the experts of our experts around the table, but also the facilitation of teamwork. We've come together because we all agree that working in our clients' best interests is something that drives our own businesses. So we, first of all, have the client's interest in mind. Michelangelo mentioned something earlier. We know the extent of our limits. We know which lanes we can drive fast in, and we know which lanes we need to stay out of. So when there's financial advice, investment advice that's necessary for a client one of my clients who's going through an exit, then I'll ask Tony or Chris to be involved. When we pull together an exit plan and talk about various ways in which a deal can be structured in a plan, we'll look for business brokerage advice, and we'll also look for legal advice on how that can be done in a way that maximizes the sale or the exit of the business from not only from a transaction perspective but also from a tax perspective. And having Jason and Michelangelo's experience in asset protection is an extremely valuable resource. When you don't plan, you subject yourself to the vagaries of chance. Business owners are really good at running their businesses. Business owners tend not to be so good at planning. Planning is not always fun. Planning pulls me away from my business, pulls me away from the thing that I love to do, pulls me away from the thing that made my business successful. So why would I stop doing it? You want to stop doing it because you have to acknowledge that there will be an end to your personal engagement with the business. How do you want that end of the business, whether it's an end that will result in 5 years of retirement or 10 years of retirement or 30 years of retirement? How do you want that to happen? In order for it to happen the way you want it to happen, you have to put a plan together. And that's what we all will advocate, and that's what we all will help you do. Now, I'm going to mention one more point and then turn it back over to my colleagues. We tend to work with small to medium-sized businesses. But I'll tell you that large businesses, especially large family businesses that have been successful in navigating multiple generations and have accumulated life-changing wealth, have always had the kind of service that we're offering available to them. You may have heard the term family office. Family office is a group of professionals that is hired by an individual family to look out for the various business and financial and personal and legal and tax interests of a family entity and a family business. Wealthy families have had the advantages of a family office for decades. What we're talking about is offering the same kind of advantage to first generation, to families that have created first generation wealth, the families that may be in second generation wealth but have not reached the multiples of assets that most family offices require in order to manage their assets. We are offering the same service that a family with $100 million or $200 million or $300 million in assets can have, or when they're at a significantly lower level than that. And I think that's a significant point for all business owners to consider. It's not getting easier to run your business. Ask any of your business colleagues. How many of you say it's easier now to run your business than it ever has been before? You're not going to see many hands going here, right? So if you recognize that, if you acknowledge that and say, let me pull a team together of individuals who are going to put me first, who are going to help me think about what's best for myself and what's best for my family from a number of different perspectives, that I don't have the time to go through all this and pull all these experts together and make sense of what they're talking about, we'll help you do that. And we'll help you do that in a way that puts you first and takes advantage of the experience of all of us in this room today.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary. We have some extra time. I want to just maybe hit each of the participants today and take a few minutes. Give us your top 2 strategies or top 2 things that you would like business owners to think about and potentially call you to get more information on the financial planning side. Tony and Chris, what are 2 things that you want business owners to be thinking about that in your multi-years of experience, you find that while business owners need this information, they just don't have it?
Yeah. Well, that's an easy one for us, Michelangelo, because we always strive for the client to start off with a financial plan. That's our guide. Most individuals, as well as business owners, don't have a financial plan. And so I use a quote that kind of, I think, makes it very real for them. And basically that's planning is bringing the future into the present so you can do something about it today. And, when we meet with a client, the first question, they'll come to us and they'll say something like, well, I have X dollars to invest. What should I do with it? And our answer is always the same. Chris, what is that answer?
Yeah, we don't know, until we sit down and we understand your individual situation and all the factors that contribute to that. It would be a breach of our fiduciary duty to recommend something in that vein. So, I'll just dovetail, Tony's point, and I think this is something that, perhaps we'll have a second call on, but, one of the benefits of this team is that, what we provide is an ongoing service. So for everybody who's watching this, who says, well, I've done that, I've talked to an attorney, I've talked to, I have a business exit strategy, I've done a financial plan. My next question would be when? There are so many things that change every year. I mean, we had a client who had springing powers of the attorney, that I think the state has done away with. Finances change, life events change. So, there were a lot of good analogies today, but another good one is if you've seen a doctor 20 years ago, it's not really relevant to your health today. So, if it's been some time since you've talked to any one of the professionals on this call today, I would encourage you to reach out and definitely do that.
Perfect. Jason, give us one on the business law side, or even 2 on the business law side of what are the things that in your thousands of business owners that you've worked with, you find time after time are things that they should have been thinking about, they should have had in place, and they just don't.
So bare minimum is, this is, and Michelangelo, you of course know this, this is why we started Fortress. Asset protection I've had lawyers, since they've see us, marketing this business a little bit, say, congratulations, you're now working with the ultra wealthy. And I said, it's not like that at all. And the analogy comes back to, if you have something that's, important to you and you don't want to lose it, then you need asset protection. And everybody, and I mean, friends, colleagues, business owners I work with, I even tell them about Fortress. And it's never a sale. When someone, when you get someone's attention, there is no sell here. It's like, oh my goodness, you just kind of see it all click. Asset protection, those structures that we're setting up, the anonymity planning, the even simple things of adding a holding company. Why you have $5 million sitting in an operating company that has endless amounts of liability every day? Why would you not have a holding company to at least pass off some of that liability? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing illegal. We're not doing anything to avoid taxes. In fact, you can get some better, tax advantages by adding, extra levels. And, I defer to my tax planning colleagues and CPA friends, but I'm certainly not giving tax advice. But at the end of the day, there are super simple things you can do to really, again, make your business more successful. You can add levels of, profitability to it. You can add levels of protection that really, extremely simple levels. And of course, we can get as complex as you want and, do offshore structures. I mean, we love to talk about that. Michelangelo and I love to, put our heads together and come up with those complex structures. But, those are few and far between where we really, have the need to do that immediately. And those, we're fortunate enough to work with those folks as well. But the vast majority, I mean, I cannot think of an instance we've come across yet where someone didn't need some level of this protection. And just by adding a holding company, just by adding, anonymity onto that, just by adding some sort of plan, it's inevitably incredibly more advantageous to them. The second part of it is, it, kind of tailors right into that, is having some sort of legal plan. And I know it sounds very basic, but what is your plan? And that's a very difficult thing. And, and I'm sure all the folks here will kind of chuckle about that. Is like, that's what we preach, but the legal plan is a thing. It's not, let's get through tomorrow. It's let's talk about what the real goal is of this company. Am I going to work in it for the next 10 years and then pass it off to a kid? Can I do that? Do I have a model? Michelangelo and I, constantly talk to business owners that think, and I'm sure Gary has seen it front line and center. I think my business is worth $10 million. Oh, really? Great. Knock on wood for you. I wish you nothing but the best. Why is that? Why do you think that is the case? Because if someone ever, kicked the tires on your business, you've got zero legal protection set up there. You've got zero financial plan. You've never consulted with anybody like Gary that talks about the infrastructure of your business, how it's set up, succession planning, continuity planning. And lo and behold, you went from, your company has made millions, but if we take you out, just that one person, you ain't there. That is not a business. We all strive for, and even in our individual businesses, to build a true business model of, is this a replicatable business model that can sustain, be sustainable without me at the helm? And until you can really answer that question in the affirmative, you really don't have a business that can take it to the next level. Now, that's not to say you can't be very successful along the way. For sure, you can. And maybe you don't want that. But if you are thinking one day, I'm going to work and work and work, and I'm going to pick my head up in 10 years and just sell it off, well, I'm here to tell you, you're probably in for a rude awakening. And how sad would that be that you've worked your life's mission and you think you're creating this nest egg for yourself that doesn't, it's not there. What I have found from the financial planners of the world, and it's, it's the Kool-Aid that I drink as well, and it was an education that I needed for myself, was, well, why not add value to your business, add some great planning in it, add some great structure where you can build wealth on the side, rather than just, listening to your CPA. I love all my CPA friends out there. They send me business. We're good friends. But, not at the end of the year, just worry about, we can get this big expenditure, that big expenditure to lower the tax bill. Why don't we have planning all year long, let alone end of year, that allows you to strip out some of that equity, some of that hard-earned cash, and put it into vehicles, what the financial planners can do to make you and the business more successful. So then in 10 years, you want to sell it off, you built a good, a good mousetrap. You're not strapped for, I got to take the first offer that comes along because I want to go sit on a beach somewhere. Or you decide, I really have built this replicatable business model and I can sell it off, for millions. But without all of these components in place, you don't get there. And if we don't start looking at it now, I find it very disheartening. I absolutely despise having those conversations with folks that come to me after the fact, or after it's all done. And my day job at Venerable, that's why that firm was created, because I was really kind of sick and tired working at the big firm and handling these big litigation cases. Listen, we all like legal fees and hourly fees and all the rest of it, but the real value add for the clients was getting ahead of the curve. I was with these people where it was, bet the company stages, this one piece of litigation, $500,000 in legal fees, $1 million in legal fees. That's, for most businesses out there, that either wipes them out or it's, a pretty substantial hit. And it, for the most part, more often than not, can be avoided. So getting ahead of the curve, working with folks on the positive side, structuring them to withstand not only litigation liability attacks, but also building a better model for you to make sure that you're taking care of that one huge asset for most people that they've put so much, blood, sweat, and tears into. And that's what, is our primary focus nowadays. And it's, it's great to work with individuals that are equally like-minded and completely client-focused that way. So hopefully I answered your question. I think I did, Michelangelo.
Absolutely. The one thing I want people to take away is that all of the relationships with the professionals here today, as well as your tax professionals, they need to be consistent and ongoing. They should not be a one and done. You shouldn't hire a business law attorney to set up your structure and then never talk to them again. I get it. People don't want reoccurring fees, but you got to look at the bigger picture, as Jason was saying. As your business grows, as you get into new things and you need new types of contracts, whether they're employment agreements or contracts with vendors or clients, an ounce of prevention of running it by Jason to say, listen, then we're getting into this business and this is the vendor agreement and here's the net terms and what does it look like if this goes bad for me? Pay a little bit of money to keep your professionals on tap and on retainer, because the couple $100 you may spend with your attorney or with your financial advisors to set up the structure and keep it current will save you so much on the back end that you don't see coming. So in our world and in the estate planning world, we talk about, estate planning attorneys are the worst of the one and done model. The clients hire them, they do their trust plan, and it might be the Pablo Picasso of trust plans, and it was set up 25 years ago. Imagine on the financial side or on the business side or on the coaching side, if you put together the best financial plan 20 years ago and you bought the right mixture of stocks and bonds and mutual funds, and then you didn't talk to your client for 20 years. Well, first of all, you'd be guilty of malpractice. Second, huge breach of fiduciary for you guys. But we don't really have that. There would be nothing wrong with an estate planning attorney drafting a trust plan for a family, or Jason drafting a business plan, or Gary drafting a transition plan. And then we're not going to get in trouble if we don't talk to our clients for 20 years. But I promise you, the plan that we put in place in 20 years isn't going to be as good as it was the day we put it in place. So you need to have ongoing relationships with your professionals. You automatically are going to talk to your financial folks at least once a year, I'm assuming, and your tax folks once a year, because they have work to do. But your business law attorney, your financial, your estate planning attorney, and your business coaching, those need to be just as consistent, because the laws change, your dynamics change. Just had business owners that came in and see me yesterday, and they haven't touched their plan since their kids were toddlers and they're now deep in their 30s. Well, things have changed. The agents under their power of attorney, their healthcare surrogate, their successor trustees, some of them have died and they never updated it. So this plan is not worth the paper it was written on if you don't keep it updated. So find your professionals that you like and trust and work well together with your other professionals, and then maintain that relationship. Because spending good money on getting a product that is not doesn't have a continuation plan is not worth doing. And when you finally need it, it's less likely going to be there. Jason, you had something.
So Michelangelo, don't get mad at me, and the rest of our brethren in the legal profession don't get mad at me. But guess what, business owners? I'm here to tell you. You're so worried about the nickel and diming of attorneys. If you found the right ones, we're not going to charge you at every step of the way. I'm going to tell you that's the secret. That's the secret you get from attending today's webinar. At the end of the day, if I've got a long-standing client, so super secretive, right? Attorneys love to charge great hourly fees and the rest. Here's a secret. If I've done business with you for 3 years and you're calling me for 5 questions in between, you ain't getting charged for it. I would so much rather, I kid you not, I just had this discussion yesterday with someone. Please call me. If I can take 5, 10, 15 minutes and save you 20 minutes, 2 days, a week of worrying, I will do it hands down and never send you a bill and be a happy person about it. If you have a business and you don't have a team of professionals that you can rely upon and not be worried about picking up that phone, then you don't have the right team of professionals, and you need to get out there and keep looking. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Gary, we'll turn it over to you to wrap it up. What are 1 or 2 nuggets with your years of experience that you wish more business owners knew about, and how you can help them solve those issues?
I'm going to ask all the business owners to think about something. Okay? Think about, what's the purpose of your business? And I want you to think about each word in that question. What is the purpose of your business? Now, I'll tell you, I've had the pleasure of working with entrepreneurs and business owners ranging in age from early 20s to early 70s. And as you might guess, the answers that people provide in their 20s are very different than what they provide in their 70s. So that kind of reinforces the thing that Jason and Michelangelo have just been talking about regarding having continuing relationships with your advisors. But if, for example, I've had people tell me that the purpose of their business is to allow them to retire at age 40 and to buy a boat and to be sailing and spending time on beaches. If that's the purpose of your business, then what we would do to help you in terms of exit planning or transition planning would be different than if you said, the purpose of my business is to provide multi-generational family wealth. Very different situations, very different kind of advice that follows. But without a business owner asking himself or herself that question, it's impossible for them to really fulfill the purpose of their business. Okay. Second question is, what are you doing to get there? And have you done everything that you need to do in order to fulfill the purpose of your business? Some people may say, well, the purpose of my business is to provide great printing service to my customers. The purpose of my business is to provide great financial service, financial advice. But there's really something deeper than that. And then once you get to the deeper part of it, that helps you understand the second question: am I doing everything that I must do in order for this business to fulfill my purpose? So those are 2 questions I often start with when I first meet with people. I'd ask all of our business owners who are watching this to ask themselves that question. And once they get some answers, call us and let us help you get there. Help us let you fulfill the purpose of your business, and help us help you put together the things and the things you need to do, the actions that you need to take in order to reach that purpose.
Awesome. Well, listen, we're right on time, and I appreciate everyone participating today, certainly our colleagues and referral partners, as well as those of you watching. We will have links in the description when we post this to all of our businesses, our contact information, and it doesn't really matter who you reach out to. If you find that something that someone on this call has talked about that is your biggest pressure point, address that first. Rest assured that person that you talk to will evaluate your situation holistically, and then take a look at what other resources, whether it's folks that are on the call today or even other folks that they have contacts with that are not on the call today, to bring a team together to serve you in the best way possible and to make sure that you have a truly holistic team of professionals that work together and for your benefit. So thank you guys. We appreciate everybody's time today, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Good.